Oh, hi. I'm Sherlock Jones. A horrible crime has been committed. The GPA of an AP English 3 student has been murdered. We're going to look into this investigation and interview a series of culprits to figure out who did it. Hopefully nothing like this ever happens again. Clarice, given your vast knowledge and wisdom, despite growing up without access to books, what do you think murdered the GPA?
I wouldn't be surprised if it were the persuasive essay.
That's interesting, considering you were able to persuade Montag to rebel from your government. What are you hiding?
I know nothing, but maybe I wasn't being truthful when I mentioned the persuasive essay. I consider myself pretty creative and able to think on my feet, which really helps with the persuasive essay. However, the synthesis is rather difficult and could have killed the GPA.
Miss Watson, knowing that you were secretive and deceptive when you tried to sell Jim, you are now a suspect in this here investigation.
Child, bless your heart. Me, I had nothing to do with the fall of the GPA.
I find that hard to believe, considering the adventures of Huckleberry Finn was sometimes hard to follow with its southern 1800s dialect. For all we know, all these misinterpretations was the final straw in the deaths of the student's GPA.
I know that, but Huck Finn is a reckless boy whose adventures can be enjoyable if the students would just pay attention. If anything killed the GPA, it would have been the Crucible. Maybe you should investigate them.
Abigail, my sources have led me to believe that you may have contributed to the death of the student's GPA. Is that true?
Look, I know I have a reputation of being a real but honestly, I don't care too much about those students. If they found my book too hard to understand or the quizzes too specific, that's their own fault. Maybe they should have read carefully and paid better attention to all the details of my diabolical plan. Now would you leave me alone? I'm trying to focus on winning back John Proctor. I know he's still in love with me.
There's only one suspect left. It must be him. Tom of the Great Gatsby, you must be guilty of murdering the student's GPA.
Just because I'm shady and everyone hates me doesn't mean I committed a crime. Wait, did Gatsby tell you I did? You shouldn't believe that nut. He spends his life looking at green lights.
Well, then who did it?
Maybe the rhetorical essay? That's a really tricky one with lots of analyzing. Or annotating. Boy, that takes forever. Your guess is as good as mine. Stop bothering me so I can get back to being self-absorbed.
Wow, maybe I've been on the wrong track. Maybe a book wasn't guilty after all. It seems to me those essays caused the most trouble. I'll review my evidence. After the interviews, I decided that it wasn't the books that killed the student's GPA. We will be investigating the essays next to see where their role plays. Here are the essays we have in evidence. I have hired a team of specialists to analyze them and their effects on the student's GPA. This is Martha Twain, our expert.
Thank you for having me, Sherlock.
Now tell me, how would this evidence affect the student's GPA?
The persuasive essay. Well, see, this can be a tricky one. However, if the student followed the 3 main objectives, then they should have been okay. Well, first, they must have a strong thesis argument and offer very strong factual evidence for each of the arguments they make. Second, they must always offer a counter-argument. Now, this can be anything, but as long as it says something makes the counter-argument toward the main argument, then it will strengthen their argument to make it more persuasive. And third, they should always use a strong sentence structure and vary their diction and syntax to make it a better read. And this way, they'll score better on the essay and it'll all be good.
Now tell me, Martha, did this affect the student's GPA and end up murdering it?
Well, as I see here, this student seems to have hit all 3 of these objectives, so I really don't think that the persuasive essay could have caused a murder in the GPA of this student.
Thank you. Calling on to our second specialist, A.M. Collins. Now tell me, Miss Collins, how could this evidence have murdered our student's GPA?
The rhetorical analysis essay. Now this one actually might be easier for the student than the persuasive if they're not as good at creative writing, because they're given a text which they have to analyze the author's devices that they use to make the text more effective. You can choose something like syntax, diction, logos, ethos, pathos, anything like that, and describe not only what the author did with it, how the author used that to explain its purpose, and how the readers were affected by that. You have to be very specific in your writing, but it's easier because you have factual evidence right in front of you. You don't have to think of it.
Okay, well, does it look like this was the cause of murder?
Honestly, no. It looks good.
Introducing our third and final specialist, Girl Montag. Now tell me, Miss Montag, how could this evidence here have contributed to the murder of the student's GPA, if so?
Well, this is the synthesis essay and it's particularly difficult. It's just like the persuasive essay, except the student is given 7 documents and they're required to analyze at least 3 to form an argument. One of the documents should be used as a counter-argument.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the final piece of evidence. This has to be what caused the murder.
I don't think so. It looks like this student had a really good synthesis essay.
Ooh, then what could it be? It looks like we're at a loss. I don't know who the killer could be. It wasn't the books or the essays. Mom, I can't talk right now. What do I want for dinner? I don't know, there's so many choices. There's multiple choices. Multiple choice! I got it! This way! I think I've found what caused the murder of the GPA. Now, if my sources are correct, yes, my hypothesis is right. The multiple choice passage has murdered the AP English 3 student's GPA. Now remember, when dealing with multiple choice, always read carefully and look through all your options. It may be tricky, but you don't want this to happen to you.
In constant sorrow all through his days, I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble